justice for all. I thank you. You may be seated. This building, or this meeting, is whether we buy the property on Cleary Drive, and that's all it will be about. Nothing else. At this time, I want to turn the meeting over to Bill Grant. He'll give you a synopsis on the meeting, on the building, and so forth.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Well, the purchase of the building at 105 Cleary Drive has been an issue for the township now probably for about a year and a half. So what I'd like to go through, just so we get the record straight, is exactly how we came to the decision to explore the idea of looking at a larger or a new township building. It all started when the township participated in a DCED police regionalization study. We were involved with many of the other Back Mountain townships and boroughs, Dallas Borough, Lehman, Harvey's Lake, and DCED came in and did an evaluation as to the cost and whether it would be prudent for us to regionalize our police force. All of the township supervisors, I think, and borough councilmen were very interested in the idea because we were hoping to, number one, save all of the townships and boroughs money, and second, we felt that the regionalization force would, for the Back Mountain, would give us more police coverage and also the ability to add some specialty areas, such as a detective, a drug enforcement officer, and so forth. So the concept of a regionalization was something that was of interest to everyone. We participated in gathering a lot of data, as the other townships and boroughs did, and DCED put together a plan or a budget based on our population and who would pay how much and so forth. Well, when we got the numbers back, I was concerned, and I think there was a couple of other townships concerned, that the numbers looked a little low from the standpoint of the cost to operate the program. They compared some of the other regionalization forces, including the Pocono regional forces and some other forces, police forces, and we just think that they didn't have enough dollars in there. I spent some time looking at massaging the dollars and felt there was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600,000 that really I felt that wasn't accounted for. So we decided at that point, Dallas Township, along with some other townships, to back out of the regionalization program with DCED. But we still felt, all the three supervisors at this point still felt that a regionalized police force had merit. So what we did is we contacted the Dallas Borough. And Dallas Borough also came to us and was interested in the possibility of a regionalization because they have a smaller force, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 individuals. And their concern, their councilman came to us, and their concern was that they had a number of police officers that were going to retire in the next 1 to 3 years, and were concerned about the ability to hire the qualified staff to build their police force. So we decided to explore the concept of joining together with the Dallas Borough Police Force, and we did an analysis, and it came down to a situation where we looked at how are we going to house the police force, because the value of the DCED report came to us and estimated that for every police officer you have, it's roughly about 250 square feet, chief, I believe it was, per square feet that you need for all of the requirements: office, armory, cells, conference rooms, interrogation rooms, all of those items. So when we looked at that, the possibility of having 15 to 18 police in our police station really didn't make sense, and the Dallas Borough really didn't have the ability to house the police force. So what we did is the three supervisors at the time, Liz Martin was one, Frank Wagner and myself, along with Tom Downton, who is our township engineer, decided to look at a couple of possibilities. And one of the possibilities is right now was converted as pro rehab on the corner. We looked at that building as a potential, and I think, Frank, we all agreed that it was not going to work for us. Number one, the size of it, and also the building needed to be stripped right down to the bare walls. Had mold, parking issues. We think it was a great location, but for the price that they wanted, I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000, $700,000 just for the property. We felt that we really couldn't swing that. In addition, then we decided to look at the possibility of buying some land and building a new township building. There's a lot of things were floated around, a community room and so forth. And we looked at the property that is adjacent to our present township building, the old Dallas Drive-In that's owned by the Harkins, which has roughly about 10 acres. The Harkin family at that time, I believe the price was, and there's a realtor here I think who represents them, was $165,000 an acre, and they wanted to sell the entire parcel. So we were looking at somewhere about $1.6, $1.7 million just for the property, and we didn't need that much. Plus at the time the road really wasn't complete, so we really weren't sure about our highway occupancy permits and so forth. And then looking at standard construction for a building of 7,000 or 8,000 square feet at even at $200 to $250 a square foot, we were looking at a fairly large project compared to some of the other items. At that, approximately around October of 2016, the Hildebrandt Learning Centers, I left employment, by the way, of Hildebrandt Learning Centers in May of 16, and Bright Horizon still operated a regional office at that site. I divested myself of the interest in that building in June of 2015, and later on, if you'd like, I have a letter from the present owners and also all the documents filed with the state and the State Department indicating that I do not own that building and did not since June of 2015. So I'm hopefully that the rumors that have been going around town will be put to bed at this point, because all the documentation is here, because some of the rumors were very damaging both to me and to some of my family, and quite frankly weren't fair. So right around October we decided, we found out that Hildebrandt was closing their office, and I mentioned to the supervisors, let's look at the possibility of looking at that building. We toured the building. It seemed like it had everything we needed. It had roughly about 8,100 square feet, and we met all three supervisors, talked about it. I gave them some information about the building because I was very familiar with the building, because I actually built the building, and the addition was put on by one of our local builders here. So we knew we had a good building. It's roughly on 1.8 acres, I believe, Tom? Yes. On 1.8 acres. So we decided to put an offer in, and I think the owners of the property started at somewhere around 1.5 million. That was way over our price. We came back. I think we offered Frank 1.2 million. I think that was the number. 1.2
was
1.2. They came back. We went back and forth until we finalized. We finally came to terms with somewhere around $1,315,000 for the building, which we had an appraisal. The appraisal in 2011 on the building that I have a copy of indicated the building at 1.6 million. And the cost to build a building, which I have, and because from the original tax return and the invoices, was $1,415,000. So it was actually less than the appraised value and also less than the construction cost. So we voted. I did not vote. Our solicitor indicated that I probably should abstain from voting. And even today, I will abstain from any voting on the buildings. Even though I didn't own the building, we did not want there to be any indication or that I had any interest in that facility. It was voted on by the two remaining supervisors who approved the contract with the owners of the building, and we put a $10,000 deposit on the building. In addition, Supervisor Frank Wagner felt that we needed some additional land just in case if we bought the building, that if we ever decided to expand or if we ever needed more parking and so forth. So we also put a contingency in the contract that we'd have the right of first refusal on the additional 2.5 acres, which is directly behind the facility. So, but we only had the right of first refusal. We didn't really have to worry about putting any dollars down. So we went through the process of probably for about 6 months of getting the appraisals, the legal work and so forth to get all of that building completed. Now, in the meantime, the building was not in Dallas Township. The building actually was in Dallas Borough. So, of course, when we talked to the borough about the consolidation of our police force and indicated that we did not have enough space to really have a combined force here in this location, we indicated to them that we were looking at the Hildebrand building, but unfortunately it was in the borough, and according to the second-class township, we are not allowed to have a township building in another borough or another township. So what we needed to do, it was a little quirky, the way the lines were drawn actually. Tom could talk a little bit about that, and Attorney Ben Jones gave us a lesson on how that all happened back in the 1800s. But this little notch of the property was actually in Dallas Borough. So what we had to do is actually go to the Court of Common Pleas, is that correct? And what we needed to do is file a boundary claim, which basically would annex the property from Dallas Borough over to Dallas Township. Tom worked with Attorney Jeff Malik, I believe, and we worked with the council and so forth, who were very interested in having this happen, because of course they were very interested in us having a consolidated joint police force. So that went fairly well, I should say, with very few objections to it.
There were no objections.
There was no objections. So, but as part of that annexation, let's call it, I'll call it annexation, we were required to give Dallas Borough $3,000 a year to make up for the difference in the real estate taxes, any of the local LST taxes and so forth that they calculated that they were getting from that building. So we were to pay that amount. But if we were to consolidate our police force in that facility, 1/3 of the cost of the police force, because it was based on population when we were calculating how we were going to divide the cost, Dallas Township roughly has about 9,500 residents, and Dallas Borough has somewhere around 3,700. So about 1/3 of the cost of the police, the building, the police, and so forth would be billed back to the borough. So based on that, and you'll see this a little bit later on, where in some of the documents I have, the cost to finance the building through USDA is roughly approximately $51,000 a year. It's a fixed rate loan for 35 years. So what we did is we allocated roughly 50% of that, or somewhere in that neighborhood, $24,000 to the police, of which they would pay 1/3 of that, which would be $8,000. So even though we'd be paying the borough, I don't want to make this too complicated, $3,000, the borough actually would be paying the township to reimburse us for the use of our facility to the tune of about $8,000. So really that number was basically a wash. We, as I said, we voted on a number of, Supervisor Martin and Wagner voted on the various sales contracts, applying for the USDA loan, and also at some of the meetings, some of our residents requested, have we really evaluated the cost of the renovations of the basement to get the police in their space? Now, the upstairs is completely, almost really move-in ready. There is furniture that was left by Bright Horizons, relatively brand new, probably well over $100,000 worth of furniture that was left, that they were going to let for the township use. So we hired an architect, Williams Kinsman Lewis. It was approved by the board. Take a look at the facility downstairs and what it would cost to renovate it for the police. Our police force, a number of the gentlemen and ladies were involved in the design of what we actually needed. We were fortunate to have William Kinsman Lewis be the architect, because they were also the architect on a recent police department in Drums. So they had the expertise, and they understood exactly what was needed when our police force was asking about armories and interrogation rooms and everything that needed to be done in the building. So we came up with, the architects came up with a plan, and we'll give you copies of those a little bit later, showing how they renovated the downstairs. The upstairs, the back portion of the building, you'll be able to see in the plan, was actually going to be the administrative offices for the police. So the police chief, detective, work areas, and so forth. Downstairs would be basically let's call it the work area, where there'd be showers, everything the police needed, the storage rooms, the armory, and so forth. One of the things about the showers that we did realize is that we had a number of the police officers and their wives indicate to us that on drug raids, our police officers, of course, are putting themselves in danger, that there could be traces of drugs on their clothing, and some of them have told us that they were required to take their clothes off in their garage before they were to enter the house, and the wives had to hose down some of the clothing and so forth, because there is that danger. So one of the things that we added, of course, was the showers for use by our police. Those numbers were estimated by Williams Kinsman Lewis, and you'll be able to see those in some of the documents that we have. Approximately June of this year, now realize that we were all on the same page that we were going to do this. We spent probably by June of 2017 approximately $40,000 to $45,000 of township money on deposits, appraisals, legal fees to annex the property, and so forth. Frank came to me in June at my house and indicated to me that he was no longer for the building, and that was a shock to me, since we were let down for the past 8 or 9 months, the fact that we were going to do this building. So what we were faced with was a vote where I had to recuse myself, and we had two individuals who would vote on the building. One would, I believe, was a yes, and one was a no. We contacted USDA and tried to figure out what we need to do the next step. USDA indicated to us that there was a number of township residents that sent letters to and I believe it was the Inspector General of the USDA, indicating that the township did not want the township building, which again was a surprise to us when we were contacted by the area representative of the USDA, who requested a meeting with us. Tom, myself, Frank, and I believe Liz Martin was at that meeting, and they indicated to us that they would be interested in continuing to finance the building and would hold the loan in limbo for us for a period of time. It was a $1 million, at that time 3.35 fixed for 35 years loan, but they wanted a unanimous vote from the township supervisors before they approved that. Is that correct, Tom?
That's
Do I have
right.
that correct? Okay. So that brings us to where we are right now. And what we did in November, Frank indicated he'd like to see what it would cost to renovate this building. Could we take this building, and could we add enough space, parking, soil and water, a new garage for equipment and so forth, because what we're gonna do is if we move down to 105 Cleary, this building, which was originally a garage, would be converted back to a garage. It was indicated by our roadmaster that we have 3 pieces of equipment that are out in the weather at this point. And he also indicated, tell me if I'm wrong, also that equipment that is garaged has a additional useful life of anywhere from 3 to 5 years, is that correct? Okay, from 3 to 5 years. So garaging our equipment is definitely a plus, that we don't have to look at replacing this equipment as rapidly as because of, not obsolescence, but if they start to break down. So if we stayed here and added on our required space, which was roughly about another 3,400 square feet, we would now lose the parking over on this side, which means we'd have to create some additional parking, which I believe we talked about the parking being in the front of the building, so we'd have to create impervious space and parking. We'd also have to create all of the retention ponds to collect our water, although because we do not have that right now. We'd also have to take a look at our sewage treatment at this point, because if we're adding 4 toilets and 6 showers and so forth, we're not sure if our septic system could handle that additional amount. We would also have to be building now a new garage, which was also estimated in these numbers, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later, somewhere in the neighborhood of $287,000 at $95 a square foot to add a building. And in addition, we also add an expanded salt shed. Now, all of those roofs and so forth that are collecting water and so forth, we would also have to make sure that we have all the detention bases to collect all of that water to do that, and also the required parking, which we estimate to be about 40. So that's where we are as of today. What we did is we hired, we had our township engineer, Tom Doughton, Ryan Doughton, who's here with us today, and Doug Trumbauer, who does a lot of our work, to do an analysis of this building and also take a look at the other building to come up with the cost would be for us to either renovate this building and go through it. Surprisingly, the costs actually are very, very close. To do everything that we wanted to do in this building, actually we get a little bit less square footage. Just want to add, if we did go down to that building, that has 8,100 square feet, we were going to lease 1,000 square feet to Karen Bobek at $12,000 a year. So our net cost in that building would have been reduced by another $12,000. So we were going to add, as he said, a building, stormwater, and so forth. Ryan came up with the estimates, well, your group, $1,867,000 to do everything on this site. The cost to purchase Cleary, do what we have to do, also the cost that Ryan put in there is the cost for us to convert this into a garage at roughly about $170,000, came out to $1,973,000. The difference is $105,000 between renovating everything that we have to do here and if we purchase the new building. Now the difference is, and I used, Tom, if you remember in the meeting, they said our rate would not go higher than 3.75, but they quoted as 3.35. So I ran what the USDA loan would be at 3.75 for 35 years at a fixed rate. Our annual amount that we'd be paying for the building would be $51,340. I contacted 2 banks, 2 local banks, and said, if I were able to finance some improvements here at the township and borrowed $1 million, what would be my best rate? They gave us a rate of 4.25 for 10 years fixed. That's all they would go. They would only fix it for 10 years, and it would be based on a 25-year amortization loan. So at the end of 10 years, we'd be looking at, depending on where rates were, we'd have to refinance at that either higher or lower rate. The way rates are going, it might have been higher. But right now, it would be $65,008. So it's $14,000 cheaper per year from a budget standpoint to be in the building down on Cleary Drive. But then also you have to back out the $12,000 that we'd be getting from Karen Boback, because we would not be able to have Karen in this building because we only have 7,100 square feet, when the build-out comes out where we have almost 8,100 down in the other property. So that's where we are. Again, what I have here is I have copies of what the space plan is for the buildings. You can take a look at it, what we thought we needed. This was all done by, independent by an architect and engineer. Square footage cost to design, all of these numbers are calculated, and also you're free to take a copy. Also, up front, we also have, I mentioned to you, to put to bed the rumor that I still own the property for my daughters or my son, which I don't have a son, I have 3 daughters. That you'll see the assignment of the partnership agreement that I signed on the 30th of June 2015, and also all of the Pennsylvania Department of State filings that were approved indicating that I withdrew from the partnership and I sold my interest to KQC investors. And I also have a letter from the president of KQC Investors indicating I have no interest in that building. Because I think part of the issue of buying the building was that I had some type of an interest in that facility and I was going to make money on that building. And I haven't owned it since June of 2015. Also in the packet is a copy of the floor plan that we have indicating all of the spaces for the police, and you're more than welcome to come up and take a copy of those. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Frank, or Bob, answer any questions. Yes.
Something, when you were talking about this, you kind of glossed over how it changed when Frank changed his mind, but you said something that struck me. He came to your house to tell you that he had changed his mind?
Yes.
Isn't that wrong? Isn't that like a quorum, that he came to you and his 2 supervisors and you discussed business? Isn't that like unethical?
That wasn't taking a vote or action or anything of that nature. That was just a communication.
Oh, okay,
I think he was just giving everybody a heads up as to what he was doing. When the final decisions, however, were made at a duly authorized meeting, a duly publicized meeting, and no final decisions were made. He could have changed his mind many times over between then and
I have another question too, and then I think that'll be it. If you've already spent $40,000 to $45,000,
Yes.
and Frank changed his mind, and you're still out that money?
Yes.
Any chance that Frank could pay it back?
That was after. I was in that for $1 million to $1.2 million. After that, I washed my hands.
But you spent the money going through all the,
Well, Frank,
That was, that up to
but
$1.2 million.
didn't you make the motion to buy the building at $1.3 million?
Yes.
No?
You did.
yes.
1.315, and you
No, I
definitely, yes, you
No,
made
I
that
didn't.
motion.
I've been
Frank.
coming to meetings here and,
Go look in your minutes.
You
You
find
made
out where there is.
Go look in the minutes. You'll
Frank,
find it.
just to be clear, and the realtors here, you signed the sales contract with the realtor for $1.35 million, because it was voted on at $1.315 million, and the contract was signed by you and
that's,
Liz.
I thought I remembered that, but I just, that we're already
So it
out
was signed.
$45,000. Never mind.
And a deposit for $10,000.
$10,000. Right.
Would we get that deposit back if you didn't go through with the closing?
We don't know.
I would rather just say we will wait and see how that goes. But there is a $10,000 at risk if we don't go through with
So
the.
that could make it 50 to 55,000?
No, the 10 is already
Oh, the
included in
10's
the
in that.
45, yes.
What are the other costs that make it 45,000?
We had appraisals,
Surveying,
pardon?
surveying.
Right, surveying, appraisal, a lot of it was legal fees. We had a lot of legal fees with the annexation of
Court
that
costs.
property, the court costs, right. So we had a lot of those other additional fees that drove it up to $40,000,
Can I-
roughly $40,000.
And you certainly don't have the answer, but to
No,
be this
you can
involved,
give it
what,
to
Frank, what made you change your mind?
When they went over $1.2 million.
No, because you made the motion to buy it at $1,315,000.
You
so
can
I
say
don't
what
get-
you wanna say, I'm saying what I said.
I thought you just said you signed it. You signed the papers at $1,315,000. I'm just repeating what I heard here.
Frank, I think we started at $1 million, we said $1.2 million we started at, but it was back and forth, and we settled in at $1.315 million.
Well, that's where we were,
315.
back and forth, and then, it came $1.35 million.
Right.
I wasn't for that.
But you made the motion to do it. That's what I don't understand.
I didn't make the motion.
Yes.
Yes, you did. This is it's a record, and it's been mentioned from the very beginning that you made the motion. That's why I was personally so surprised you
pass,
changed
you
your
pass
mind.
that down to the other supervisors so that they can see.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Apparently, the police are gonna pay $8,000 and Karen Boback is paying $12,000. Where are these organizations getting their funding, from the taxpayers or from their personal pockets?
Well, Karen Boback I'm sure she's given an allowance as a
It's-
state representative.
Yeah, where does that money come from?
Well, it comes from us.
With our tax
Well,
money?
she's paying for office space right now.
Right, but what is she paying now?
She indicated
I
to
mean,
me she
it's-
could not pay any more than what she's paying already. So that's where that $12,000
So it
figure
is
came up.
just and the police are going to be responsible for $8,000 a month, you said?
No.
$8,000 a
No,
borough?
no, what it was
Because of their space or
Dallas Borough,
something?
when we were doing the budget to figure out how much it was gonna cost for the police, of course, we had to put a cost of the facility in there, so what we did is we said, we based it on square footage, and I think we said that the police were gonna have, let's say, a third of the building. So what we calculated was, we took the half of the monthly, or the yearly payment of $50,000, and it was 25, and the borough was gonna be responsible for a third of it, based on the population. So they would have to pay into our police budget, because we would actually set up a separate police budget, so all the costs would be there, so everyone would see that at the end of the year, that our township would only be paying 2/3, and they would be paying the other third. So that's where that $8,000 roughly came in, that number.
But again, that's taxpayers' money.
That's their taxpayers' money, correct.
Somebody's taxpayers' money. So are you saving lots of money on someone else's tax money when those people, the police in Dallas, when they moved, what are they paying in taxes now for their property? And are they saving money for the borough or whatever?
We didn't, I'll be honest with you, we didn't get to the point who is saving how much, other than when
Wouldn't that be
when
important?
DCED did their report, when they did the combined report of the two, there was a savings of, I believe the number, and we can pull out that report, I believe the savings was about was it about $130,000, Doug, with the combined force? I think that's what it was, somewhere in that neighborhood. But we actually had better coverage, we had additional policemen and so forth. So we were saving some money, of which we would have saved 2/3 of it, and they would have saved about 1/3 of it. Because we wouldn't need 2 police chiefs, we'd only need 1 police chief. So some of the higher salaries and so forth would be eliminated, and some of the newer officers that would come on because of a lot of retirements that Dallas Borough was indicating to us, would be coming on with the younger police officers and not at higher rates. So there was maybe, let's say there may have been $100,000 savings in our combined force. But we also felt, and I think the police also felt, that we'd have a better, stronger police force here in the Back Mountains since we're so close. And we were hoping to do it with those 2 groups first, and then maybe reaching out again, as we talked, in fact, I talked to Doug today about it. Do you look at maybe Lehman or Harvey's Lake, and then eventually have a regionalized force that could actually save a lot more money?
If you're saving $100,000 a year doing this police thing, then why do you need to even have this loan that's $51,000 a year?
Well, the nice thing about the
You're
DCED
having all
loan,
this extra money now.
well, the nice thing about the DCED loan is that there's no prepayment penalty. So even though we have 35 years out there, if we run surpluses, or if we find that our police force is, and we're saving money, and we all agree on that, on the police force budget, that maybe we should pay down the loan faster, absolutely. I mean, we would be crazy not to, depending, of course, on where interest rates are, because, again, I'm sorry if I maybe talked too much finance stuff, we had a pension meeting today, but let's say 3 years down the road, CD interest rates are 6%. Well, I'm not gonna pay down that 3.35% loan, I'm gonna put that money in a CD and get a little bit more interest on it rather than pay the loan. That loan is very attractive and very low that, 10 years from now, people may be looking back at that, if rates are higher, that we had a fairly good deal.
Phil, I think what she's asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I understand the answer, but I want to make sure, I think you got off a little bit. We have to spend more money to modernize and increase the space that the police force requires if there's a larger police force
Correct.
that's going to be using it.
Correct.
What we have here is not sufficient, and it's, I'm sure, outdated, not that I've ever been inside of that, thank God. So far, I haven't been. But,
Take a tour later.
but I'm assuming I think that's what your question is. We're saving this money by regionalized force. Why are we spending another $50,000 a year, or whatever it is, for the new facility? Because it needs to be updated, it needs to be
Right.
enlarged.
Right.
Is that what you were asking? Okay, all right, I'm sorry. I misunderstood your question.
You didn't give a dollar value for the renovation for the police force in the building at Hildebrand.
Yeah, I think
You glossed over that, you didn't mention that at all.
Okay, we can get that for you.
I think you gave the total with the renovation.
We figured the additional, and you could take, it's in this copies here, you're more than happy to take copies. We figured we had to put some additional parking, the costs are right in there. You could pass some of those out if you'd like. The additional parking that we'd have to create there, we wanted to get more parking. The engineers figured about $30,000 for additional parking. The cost to turn this building into a garage,
No, the cost of turning the basement into a police department.
yeah, we're getting to that.
Thank you.
I'll wait till. Estimate 315. Okay. The estimated renovation cost is $315,000 to convert the downstairs.
Okay, so you're up to 1.6 now.
We're up to with some soft costs, because there's engineering, we're at 1.7.
Versus, what was it, 1.9?
No, 1.7 so far, but then, in addition to that, that's just to buy the building and renovate it downstairs. In addition, we have to create parking, some additional parking. We figured that's $30,000. In addition to that, we added into this cost the fact that we'd have to convert this building into a garage. So we added that into the cost down there, because we wouldn't have to build a garage. So that was $167,000. The stormwater management for we added that into that cost was $70,000 for stormwater management here. Because if we went down there, there's some costs that we'd have to generate here. So we put them all into the moving cost, let's call it. And so that came out to $1,973,000.
So you're up to about $2 million. You've got a loan for $1 million. How are you financing the other $975,000?
Well, the rest of it would be coming from our internally generated funds. Right now,
Internally generated funds from what?
pardon?
From what?
We have-
Besides the tax rate.
We have $3 million in the bank right now, in the township. So we would take $1 million or $975,000, use that, and still have a surplus of $200,000 or $2 million. We have run surpluses for the last 6 years, every year for the last 6 years. Surpluses. This year we expect, it's not audited yet, it's unaudited. Our surplus this year will be approximately $330,000.
So what interest rate are you making on that surplus?
What we did is, we took $500,000 of that, and we have two CDs, $250,000 each, at 1.65 that are 1 year, they'll mature in April. In addition, we negotiated with the bank that all of our accounts, the rest of the money markets and so forth, get an interest rate of 0.55%. And I was just quoted the other day, because we're looking it's coming up soon, that rate will go up to 0.85. So our idle money is getting interest. Last year, I think we have budgeted $31,000 of additional money that comes in from those funds. Now, you might say, well, what are you gonna do with the other $2 million? Well, we have roads to look at and so forth. Now, our budget for this year, if you look at our projected budget for 18, we show a small surplus of about, we're indicating $15,000, which, why it might be, it'll probably be a little bit more, because I really, when I do the budget, I can't really estimate the amount of wage tax that come in, and also how many sales, the transfer tax. Like this year, we had a fairly good year with transfer tax, probably an additional $30,000 over our budget, and about $150,000 more in wage tax compared to last year. And that's part of the economy be a little bit better and some of those kind of things. So I budget very conservatively for 18, and we're hoping that this year we also have a surplus. So that's where the additional money would come from our own coffers.
Bill, the USDA won't finance a renovation, they'll only finance a purchase?
No, they'll finance a renovation. The problem is, we can't transfer, it was site-specific. That's the problem, because we had to go jump through a lot of hoops, believe me, to get that loan. We had a number of meetings, back and forth. Our representative here locally had to really sell it to the people in Harrisburg, I think, in Harrisburg. And they only had, I think, for this area, again, don't quote me exactly, I think it was 3.2 million for this area, and we got $1 million of it. So we were lucky, in fact, to be able to be allocated for $1 million.
And that can't get transferred up here, or the rate has just increased now?
It can't get transferred, yeah. And where the rate is, I'm not sure, but they did tell us when we were locked in that it would not be more than 3.75. That's what, but all my calculations are based on 3.75, and it could be lower.
So with the renovation of this building versus buying the building at Cleary Drive, with this renovation, Ryan, you maybe can answer this more. Was this all new HVAC, like high-end insulation? I mean, have we looked at operating costs? Would this building be considerably less to operate with utilities and what have you than the other building?
In interest of not spending an eternity and a lot of money.
Right.
I was asked by the township to do an analysis, a cost analysis of this campus versus moving to Lieutenant Cleary Drive. And the way we put it together, John, is strictly based on square footage costs. So, you know, this building is 7,000 square feet, and we're gonna do a certain square footage addition. We did a range of costs, a range of square footage costs, just to get a little bit of flexibility.
I see
And
that.
we did the same thing for Lieutenant Cleary Drive. So we didn't get as detailed as looking at, okay, we're gonna replace this condenser and upgrade this electric service. We didn't get that into it.
Right. I guess my...
What was the total?
Yeah, we're good.
Total,
For this, you said that was the
Well,
1,000,008.
that's
and the other
$1,000,008.
1,000,009.
and that, as I said, that includes, it's not just the building, it includes, you know, stormwater, it includes, you know, garages.
But that's even unknown, isn't it? It could be, you don't know what you're gonna find, and you don't,
Well, we don't, but
you
I
don't know what your
think
septic
Ryan,
is like or
we
any
don't.
of that stuff either.
we don't know that, you're right. And once you get into it, it could be higher. But I guess we have a little bit more known quantity at Cleary, because there's not a lot of work that has to be done, where here, there's some things we don't know.
There's assumptions made, putting together the estimates, but it's
So,
uncommon.
anybody else,
I'm
Cal?
trying to stay with the math here, and I'm not clear. Am I hearing that the $3 million balance surplus we have now, that ends if we buy that building?
No,
No,
No.
we got that. We got that. That's ours. But that includes roads, everything for the township. That's,
I think in
that's even our park money, which is grant money in there
the
and
park money,
everything.
the park money is not in there. We didn't receive any of the park money in that $3 million, that's totally separate.
Oh, I thought you,
No, No.
I know you was gonna put it in a separate account.
We will put in a separate account, we didn't get any of that yet.
Okay.
We have a couple of grants for park money, we got about $450,000 for the Dallas Park, plus a $75,000 contribution from the Betts family, so we're gonna have a new township park.
You had,
One more, wait, Alan, one more.
in your checkerboard, the taxes paid by two Dallas boroughs, you only mentioned it was at $3,000 a year?
$3,000 a year.
How did an 8,000 square foot building relative to new construction only pay $3,000?
No.
Well,
That's
it's
for municipal,
only municipal.
only municipal.
It's only the municipal taxes.
Well, they're losing the county taxes.
Well, we're tax exempt. So
Well-
if we have that, we won't.
Right, but they weren't taxed, they paid a county tax as well.
Who's that?
The current building,
That's correct,
so that's out the window then too.
for them, that's correct. But they only look to us for the municipal tax that they were losing.
Right,
The
so
county did not.
the county is losing how much in tax money?
That I don't know exactly.
It was 15,000 they were paying,
How much?
15?
15.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that makes more sense.
yeah,
Because I know commercial real estate and taxes, $3,000 is only a portion of the taxes, so the county's losing $15,000 a year going forward.
correct, you are correct.
Okay, you pointed out.
Go ahead, Alan.
Alan,
Which they would if you bought another piece of property also. The county would lose out on that piece, no matter where it is.
yes, that's
Right,
correct.
so in
We bought
reality,
this property
so if
here.
I just wanna understand it, and I'm gonna stand because I hate people not being able to see me. So you have a potential to spend $1.8 million to renovate this building that comes out 1,000 square foot smaller than the building you wish to purchase. Which your average building costs are $200+. So there's actually a $200 and some thousand difference in cost. Makes this a worse deal. Second, if you renovate this building, you don't own any new land, you don't own anything else. So if we were doing this personally and buying a house, I'd spend almost $2 million and have one property. The other way, I'd spend almost $2 million, I own two property. So I have twice the equity. So this would be a real estate deal that no one in their right mind would do, in my opinion, would be to renovate this past its functional usage of being a pole barn, renovating offices that have served the township well. But if you're going to go forward, I don't see why you would put that kind of money into this lot. Further, if you look at your site project plan here, that's public record, if you want to go dig it up, you got 100 right-of-ways through here. You have a road through here, your parcel's split in two, you've got a gas line right-of-way, you have a water line right-of-way, you got an electrical, I think, right-of-way through here. You got all sorts of right-of-ways through the property. So you don't even know whether or not you could actually expand to this point. So to me, from my standpoint of buying a fair amount of real estate myself, that would be a terrible deal to renovate here, end up in the same money, have one property. Yes, I understand it's tax money, it's all tax money. Also, nobody really, well, maybe don't always think about what it costs to run a police department. But I can tell you for the people back there, there is an expense to it. But if you look at some of the other towns and you see what they've gone through, I personally am all in favor of whatever we can do to keep the municipality in the shape we're in today. Go back and look what we spent the equipment for the road department over the years. They have great equipment. Not every town's so lucky. That's why your roads are in the shape they're in. You have a great police department. That's why our crime rates are where they are. Our guys have been featured on national TV for crimes they solved that elsewhere I really think would be nothing more than a report in a file. Homicides. These guys work it, and I think I'm hoping a lot of people here to show their support to give them the tools they need in the whole township to do that. Now, my next question beyond that is, I really am interested in knowing what did we sign? Because Frank's made a big distinction here whether or not it was 1.2, which is his cutoff, now that you spent $40,000, or did we sign up for 1.315? And I would ask the solicitor, what is the answer?
We have the agreement of sale.
So what did we sign off of? Because I think for everybody here, that would be important to know.
You go to the last page, that's what it says.
Second page.
Second page. It's 1.315.
And that was signed by the township.
It was signed by Frank Wagner and Elizabeth Martin on 2/28/17.
Well, that doesn't seem to match what we just heard, Frank, in all honesty, so I'm not sure where that disconnect is. But I will say that I really hope you guys think about this, because if you went down the path to do this, and you did it with open eyes, and you spent $40,000, I hope this is some real piece to it, not something that came down to end up being in a campaign battle, that would be sad to see 40 grand thrown away.
That's taxpayer money.
There's taxpayer money, so, I mean, if you decided not to do this, I could understand that. But you made a decision, spent real money, and now we're back between renovating a building for almost the same price as buying one. I don't get it. Furthermore, I would ask the solicitor, if someone's out there spreading rumors that Mr. Grant, as a supervisor, is getting money back from this building, which I've heard of myself, then I would ask you to ask law enforcement to investigate that. Because I think wherever it came from needs to be told. It's not fair to him, it's not fair to any of us in this room if those allegations have been being made and they're not true. And they taint this process, and that's a sad, very sad comment on this. So I hope, or I would hope our police chief makes the appropriate calls. Because if that's being done, someone should track that back to where it came from. It's not right. And further, I hope there wasn't conversations that led to decisions being made in a driveway. Because I think that violates the spirit of what this is intended to be. So I really hope you sit up there, and I was very saddened to overhear the question right in the beginning, or the comment, so how long do we have to let the people talk? If you didn't hear that while we were sitting here, that was the first comment. How long do we have to let us talk? This is important. It's $2 million. Whether you're for it or against it, it's $2 million. It's not chump change. I know how I feel. I don't think it's a good real estate investment to invest that much money in this building. You may decide to do nothing at this point, not spend any money. But I think to limit people that took the time to come here, I mean, you know what the meetings are normally not this many people here. This many people here means there's important, and there's opinions, whether they're for or against it. Everyone's opinion is important, obviously. And I don't think we should look to limit those items. So,
In fairness, I should say, and the decision was not to limit it.
I understand, but I don't think it should be asked.
Back there in the back.
Yeah, basically, I've been looking at all these figures, and I missed some of the meetings in the beginning, but when I look at our millage, I mean, I have to congratulate you guys. We're at 1.25, all right? I'm looking at Dallas Boroughs at 1.31, Lehman Township 1.75, Kingston Township 1.55, Jackson Township 2.12. Now, with all the things you purchased this year, and you even done Woodcliff Drive and some other things, how did you come up with $300,000 that you saved? And how do we project that into the future? What do you see in the future about our millage, and can we afford these things if we're saving over $300,000 almost every year for the past 5 years?
Well, when I prepared the budget, first of all, I think it's very conservative. The millage, when I started as a supervisor, I believe was .97. So there was some ratcheting up of the millage. I think we've had the advantage that we've had being in the back mountain is a very desirable place to live. So there's been a lot of real estate transactions where we get the 1% transfer tax, which I've budgeted always very, as I said, very conservatively, and I've actually collected more every year than expected. Same thing with the wage tax. The fact that people are moving back to the back mountain or paying that wage tax and the local share tax, we're getting more than actually budgeting. Every year I ratchet up a little bit on the budget, a little bit more that I expect to get, but it seems like we always end up with getting more than we need. I have to also admit we've had a lot of savings, and I believe I gave you that sheet this afternoon. Some of the things that we did just last year, the things such as we decided to go with a different pension company, okay, which saved us, I believe, 43 basis points, almost $20,000.
We'll talk about the police pension fund too, which probably is #1 in the valley.
It is #1. It's at 125% of what we need. We just had a pension meeting today. With the market being all where it is, we only were down 2.25% compared to what's been down over the past. Our other pension fund is solid. We saved money there. We saved money by, over the last couple of years, we self-insured a portion of our health insurance, okay? That's saving us, this year saved us almost $24,000.
24/7, you have listed.
24/7, thank you. 24/7. What else did we save this year?
Healthcare, well, the healthcare,
Oh, yes, the healthcare, they came in at 11 to 12% our healthcare. Our healthcare is gonna increase by over, I believe, almost $50,000. So what we did is, we went back to our police department and our road department and said, if we tweak some of these things, and what I did is I went back and I asked Benecon, who provides us through Highmark, if we tweaked a couple of things, if we increased the doctor visit from $10 to $25, if we did specialty from $25 to $50, if we increased a little bit on the healthcare, what would we save? Well, we ended up dropping our healthcare increases to somewhere around, I believe it was 7%. We saved almost $30,000 just on that. So just some of the things last year that we did, we almost saved almost $100,000 by just managing that a little bit better. So
And talk about the purchases you made.
and
The new police car.
we have new police car. We spent $175,000 on a new truck, new dump with a plow. We were able to, because we were having such a good year, I went to the police department and the road department. We bought a new backhoe, correct? Which was 110? No, 77, okay. I don't have this in front of me. Okay, so we have we bought a new backhoe, we bought a new cruiser, we bought the unmarked cruiser. We had tasers that we were gonna put in this year, it's actually this year's budget. I went to the chief, he was able to get them last year, and we still end up, as I said, right now with about a $335,000 surplus.
What you have on your list of capital equipment as part of your handout, what you did for the road department, you spent $268,470 on new equipment, and for the police, $64,865. So you spent over $300,000.
And we still,
And you're looking at grants also for the
Oh,
police and
absolutely.
things like that?
we have over $450,000 grants for our new playground. In addition, our police chief just last week was very excited about starting to write grants, went to a grant training seminar and came back to me. In fact, I sat with him today. He said, whatever we decide, he feels that we're gonna be able to get some grants also to outfit the police department. How much, I'm not sure, but he's pretty excited about going after them. In addition, we also, Ryan's dad put in for our ADA grant, that's up to $100,000. So for the building down there, for the sidewalk and some of the construction, to get the police department down in the bottom, we put that in, so that will be coming from the county for our ADA grant. So yeah, we're looking for grants all over the place, whatever we can get.
I think you've been doing a good job, and when you project into the future, how do you project the millage and things like that 10 years down the line?
I don't know.
Are there any big things that we
Well,
have to worry about?
here's one of the things that we did, when we talked about Frank and myself, Ryan and his dad, and our roadmaster. One of the things that we wanted to do is, we're starting to look at 3 and 5 year horizons on where we're gonna spend money. One of the things we wanted to do, we said, is we want all of our roads paved within the 3 years, correct? Get them up to speed, all of our roads if we can. So that's one of the things that we're pretty aggressive this year. How many roads are you doing this year? 4, 5?
We contracted them ourselves,
We just contracted.
contracted for.
4, and then plus whatever they're doing themselves. So our hope is that we're gonna, I even made a comment that maybe our gravel roads eventually would start paving those. So the next 3 years, we're hoping that we can get that done.
And you don't even know if there's federal grants from this infrastructure that they're going to pass for $1 trillion.
Could be, it could be. Equipment-wise, I think Martin is in good shape. Every year when we sit down, I bring in Martin and the chief and so forth to work with the budget. I think that's something that I think was very important, so I get their input. So, their equipment-wise, they're in pretty good shape. I think he needs another truck and a grader, right? I think that's what we're looking at. The police are looking at, I just met with today, selling some of the old cruisers off and buying just one good one, maybe selling our ice cream truck up there, as we call it, maybe getting rid of that and buying some. So I think we have our managers that are running our departments that are really into this now and are a part of the budget process and understand that we have a fiduciary responsibility to everyone here to not increase taxes, to keep it low. Our average our average home price in assessed value, I think Holly gave that to me, was about $180,000. I think that was the number. And the average home that we collect is $240 for municipal taxes. So we're only 6% of your entire tax bill. So when you get your tax bill and say, gee, I pay $3,000, we only get 6% of that. 67% of it goes to the school district up there, and the rest goes to the county. So we are such a small part of your tax bill. And hopefully, we did increase taxes this year, and if we continue to do what we're doing right now, hopefully next year we won't have to do, we won't have to increase taxes either. I'm projecting hopefully we're gonna have surpluses.
I'm kind of impressed with the things that have been happening in the township and how it's been covered and how all of you can express it to me. And I'm hoping we can come to some settlement on what we're going to do, but as that gentleman said, I think having two properties, and the thing that always strikes me is that, okay, we're paying 1.3 and it's worth 1.6, we'll buy it and sell it. And we'll make a profit. We'll use a profit here.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that came to my mind as soon as I saw those figures. But I don't see how we're going to lose if we're buying a building that's worth more than what we're paying for it. And as long as we can afford it.
Hey, Bill, if I can, oh, go ahead.
Let me get Diane here.
Yeah, will you go ahead and then I'll...
Well, the only thing I want to say is, I've been, to really just piggyback on that, I've been doing business with the township for 30-some years with my developments, and, when Frank and Phil Walters and Glenn Howe were here years and years and years, I think they really laid great groundwork and a foundation to be very, very fiscally responsible. And then, Bill, when you came in, and even when Liz was here, you guys just expounded off of that and even got it even better. And, I think these guys are doing great with the road department and all that. But getting back to the building, the one thing I know from being in the construction business and seeing, the high school and other, state and federal jobs say, well, it's going to be 50 million and it ends up being 58 million. There are, and it's been said before, there's a lot of unknowns in this building. It's been, renovated and renovated and renovated over the years, and it's worked well. The building on Cleary, I think, has a lot less unknowns. 90% of that building is done. It's operational, maybe a coat of paint. It already has furniture in there. So the work that's required is going to be isolated to the basement for the police department. Where here, I could see where if we think it's going to be 1.6, end up spending another $300,000-400,000 because the foundation is this and HVAC, and we want to add windows. Having said that, I think from that side of it, that other building probably works better. The question is the efficiency of the township when the road department is up here and the managerial staff is down there. And I'm sure you've thought about that. And is that going to be, much of a detriment? That's just kind of my 2 cents.
I don't think so. I know Martin interacts with Nancy quite a bit and so forth.
Right.
Martin doesn't have the best space in the back.
Right.
And the idea would be, this would be the garage and Martin
Absolutely.
would be in here. Maybe our tax collector would stay here because people are familiar with this being the office for the tax collector.
Right.
I haven't really thought that far, but it could be an issue. But, with communications, with telephone and so forth.
And I don't know that it necessarily is.
Yeah.
That just came to my mind. And I think having the equipment under roof I'm a huge proponent for that. I mean, all my stuff, it just lasts. I think 3 to 5 years is conservative on how much the extended life would be. Leaving this stuff sitting outside just kills it. So, and the stuff is so expensive. These trucks and machines are so expensive.
We just spent $175,000 on a truck.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
Nope, I'm with you.
How much does that road grader cost that sits out there day to day?
What's that?
How much does that road grader cost that sits out there every day?
Lots of money.
Lots of money. Diane was next. I'll get the...
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Bill, for the excellence and the energy that you bring to your position here.
Thank you.
You're a tremendous asset. We appreciate all of the work that you do. We all know, everyone in this room is here because we know what a political football this issue has been for the past 6 months to a year. It's unfortunate that it got to be that way, but it did. There was a lot of emotion in this political football. But I'm asking everybody here today to put that emotion aside, and particularly the 2 supervisors who will be voting on this issue, maybe tonight, maybe at a meeting soon. I think we have to use what is logical, what is reasonable, and what makes the most financial sense. What is reasonable and logical for the administrative staff, for the police department, for the road department, for the equipment. We have to base the decision on that and not on the emotion of who's on this side and who's on that side. Who did we vote for, who didn't we vote for? And I'm asking in particular, Frank and Robert, to use that logic, that reason, that common sense to do the right thing for the township. That's what we expect of you in your positions, and we will hope that you use that and not something that you said during the campaign or something that you promised during the campaign, but what is actually best for the township given the information that you have today. Thank you.
We've been painted a pretty rosy picture of the progress of this township for the past 6 years. Let's not go backwards. Let's keep moving forward.
Brenda?
Yeah, I'll say it. I kind of wanted to reiterate what Diane just said, and I'm going to ask the supervisors to really consider the same amount of money, and you're going to get an entirely different piece of real estate in a new building. We've got builders, we've got real estate agents, we've got appraisers all sitting here, and we're all going, this is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's a whole nother lot. It's a whole nother parcel if you want to sell it in the future, as opposed to investing into this one spot. It just doesn't financially make sense. And is the $40,000 that small that we're just going to throw it out the window? Or the $3,000 a year if a nonprofit buys that building, we're just going to pay $3,000 a year because that was an agreement that we made, and it's in the township now. If a nonprofit goes in there, you're not getting any tax money back on that building.
Right.
So you're done.
Well, one thing I want to say about making the best decision, for my 2 fellow supervisors, the information that they did have prior to what Ryan did only had the information related to the building down at Cleary. I hope that they, the fact that now we have more information about this building, the cost and so forth, that you take that into consideration. And I don't see anything wrong with changing your mind. The fact that given new information about a project or whatever, there's nothing wrong about changing your mind based on new information, and that's what you have here, new information on the project. So hopefully, I can't vote, but hopefully you'll consider that, and I don't think anybody would hold it against you, the fact that you changed your vote based on the fact that the information is now solid, and lots of other good reasons that we had here tonight for maybe purchasing that building rather than renovating the building here.
Bill, can I speak just quickly? Everybody that know me, I'm the chief of police, and I also have an interest in this, not only for my guys, but I'm a taxpayer. I live in the township. My question is to Ryan. Ryan, with this addition, that's renovation here. What happens after that when we outgrow that? Is there room to expand?
I really can't answer that question. We've been waiting on a survey of the property, which has been taking a lot longer than expected, but someone, I don't remember who, young, mentioned there are a lot of easements.
Right.
You know, we have a cell tower, we have gas lines, we have a new roadway. You know, and as part of this estimate, we have in here adding parking. Well, we're adding parking, I don't know where we're putting it, so, because I don't have a property map. But to answer your question, that could potentially be an issue. I couldn't answer it for sure because I don't have a property map yet.
And part of the renovation would be, I'm understanding that we renovate the whole building and not just an addition. All right. My question to the supervisors is, where does the police department go when that happens?
Well, if you grab one of these costs, we consider that. we probably have to rent a space somewhere else for you for 6 months.
Because we can't be there while you're renovating because of our clean and NCI certifications. We can't have people walking through there.
Yeah, we could.
We had $15,000
$15,000.
in the numbers here
Okay,
for
so we would have to
temporary
take everything we
space.
have and move someplace while that renovated.
Right,
And
I'm
then
not
move
sure
that.
where that would be, if that's a good.
It's all added in the cost now.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know where that would be.
There's no location.
We don't know where that
Does
location.
the location have to be in the township? If you're
Yes.
township police?
Yes.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, okay.
What my concerns are. I just would like to say, I've been here for 27 years. Taxpayer for most of those. In those years I've been here, I've seen the township not look into the future as far as they should. This town is growing rapidly. The police force is gonna grow rapidly. Right now, we have 10 guys, maybe we'll have 11 by July. 5 to 7 years, we might be up to 15, 20, 25 guys. We'll be like Kingston. And my concern is, and my fear is, if we put an addition on, and the police department outgrows that, what are we gonna do? Sit here again in 5 to 7 years and say, well, what are we gonna do? I would like to see something where we have room to expand our department, so we don't have to go through this again. So just consider that when you decide what you're gonna do.
Can I speak?
Yep, sure.
I don't live in the township, but I've done a lot of business in the township. I've brought a lot of business to the township. I am the real estate broker that was brought in to more or less consult with the township and help them find a building, land, whatever it was that could fit their needs presently and in the future. The only thing I can say is whether they buy it or not, they took every consideration in examining everything every option in the back mountain within the township. And to the extent that this building sits on 1.8 acres, is adequate in size presently, can't be further expanded upon. They did insulate themselves by getting that option on an adjacent 2-acre parcel, that if that property was nothing more than parking, they may have the opportunity to further expand that existing building. And, you know, if anybody's done real estate, you know, we all have setbacks, side yards, front yards, whatever. Having that parcel next door and combining two of them would eliminate those setbacks, which would further give them more land to do various things on. So from the extent that 3 supervisors originally involved in this examined and literally turned over a lot of stones in the township, not only is this the best opportunity, but they did a super job.
Isn't it a beautiful location?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And to reiterate, further reiterate, they may say it was an easy process to get that municipality of Dallas to consider the annexation, as we refer to it. It was a long, arduous project. Attorney Brennan, I mean, he not only had the full cooperation of everybody, but I can tell you there were times when we talked, there were lots of conversations, lengthy conversations, back and forth, updates. I wouldn't want to go through that again, honestly. And probably in my lifetime, I'll never have to go through it again. And hopefully Don won't have to go through it again. But nobody let their guard down. Nobody backed off. Everybody was focused on one thing, best thing for the township. So that's my 2 cents.
Just a note, so $40,000 you're out, $15,000, which I think is conservative, to temporarily relocate the police department. Because their computer systems, their physical space rental, a holding cell, all has to go with it. Plus the circuits the state requires for their terminals is probably quite probably conservative. And then, again, end up with one parcel.
Right.
And then furthermore, just a little curiosity, Bill, I didn't know you before you became a supervisor. In fact, for those in the audience, in full disclosure, I ran against them. And backed off. Because I won the chance to run on the other side, and I thought Bill is a great addition to this. And I've always said I appreciate much of what the township's done over the years. But I'd love to see this township stay that way. I'd like to see it still be where people want to move, where people are proud to live, where our police department protects our tail ends, because we see these other towns. And if you haven't, or you haven't seen when you go over the border, no disrespect to the state police, but they don't have enough people. It could be 2 to 3 hours to get someone, or towns around us that have part-time at night. Dallas Township had to take a call in one of the adjoining towns.
For a murder.
One for a murder and one for someone blowing open their door with a shotgun, because the state police called them. And when the state police call, their jurisdiction goes with them. And there's a lot of other agreements, not to speak for the chief. But I can tell you what it means to live outside of an area that has a well-funded police department. I think the roads, you could say the same. You travel other roads, you know what it's like. So I really hope you consider it. Furthermore, Bill, I didn't know much about you, but your background, as I learned more, you had a lot of locations for the business you used to have. You managed a lot of remote. How many employees did you have?
1,200.
1,200. So it would make sense when we look at why the financial pieces and what you look at, how you consider you ran a business with 1,200 people. That is very significant.
It's about a $50 million business.
A $50 million. The township budget is?
3.5 million.
And yours was 50. So, someone told me once, if you want to make 100 grand a year, don't ask 2 people to make 50. Probably ask the guy that makes 100. In this case, the guy that ran a $50 million budget is now working on a $3.2 million budget. And I think the result shows, and you're bidding out the money saved, the surpluses, and I hope you all consider that in the future of the town. Because apparently this property was bought in 1960. I'm sure it was a big deal then. This will be a big deal in the future. Thank you.
Getting back to where I was, we had a meeting here on the $1 million loan with USDA. You remember that? I think the guy's name was
Sean Stair.
Yep. I don't have it offhand. But anyhow,
Sean Stair.
I told him, no, I don't want the loan. And I said my phone was ringing off the hook at that time with people that called me that did not want the building. And I told him that's the reason I'm withdrawing. And he says, I'll tell you what I want you to do. He told the 3 supervisors that was sitting here at that time to see what they could do, go out, get some names, whether they're for the building or against the building. You give us 30 days. I turned in 197 names. I turned in 27.
Was it publicized? Was that ever publicized? Because I have no recollection of that, because I could.
It wasn't public information.
It wasn't? So
No.
you got names on, excuse me, I should stand too. You got names on petitions without publicizing it, so people that are in favor of the building could do the same.
That was,
That doesn't sound right. I know, I could get 50 probably this evening. And I certainly would have, and I think other people that are here now would have done the same, so I think that's a
they
little
had it on
point.
in their lap and they
But
didn't
wasn't
do
made
their
public,
homework.
how would people?
So they voted to spend $40,000 and backed off because you got a political call, and then you went out and worked to get the petitions. I don't think that represents the township, Frank. It actually doesn't make me feel any better about it. I would be better if you had called for public meetings on it and let people come and explain it, not work behind the scenes. That's the problem with this
We
setup.
didn't work behind the scenes.
I got
It was
100
done right here
didn't tell
at the table.
anybody. That's
They were
terrible.
told at the open house to see how many people that they could get to sign.
I signed that, and that was to sign to say that
And
you
that's-
were at the open house.
Open to the public.
That
No,
was-
it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Publicize on behalf of the
They had
township.
20
open to the public.
That's right. No, 27
No,
people
no.
signed to go. Did you
Sorry,
go?
Ann,
Did you
sorry.
go?
And that's when they were told to see what they could get.
No, but an
And
online
they got
isn't the
it.
same. Where
And
did you
that's
get
what
those?
sounds
Well, I
good.
just, Frank said it was mentioned at the
just
table,
seems-
but.
Anybody else to speak on the building?
Let's get this
Let me
over.
ask you a
On
question.
the
This is on the building.
Clarence, let me ask you a question. I know you came to see the building. Do you think that you had all the information about the building when you first came and talked to me about?
I was all emotional about a road.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is go down and look at it economically. So I've looked at both sides, I've listened to people, and I signed that I was against it, but right now, I know I've changed my
I'll
mind.
see Frank.
By having a public meeting, and meeting with you, meeting with Frank, and listening to all of this and getting the facts involved, now I'm coming to a conclusion that if they asked me to sign that, I wouldn't sign it next time. Because rather than an emotional type of thing, as you were mentioning, now it's a factual, practical thing that I'm looking at. And there's been a lot of things about people saying, yeah, our Dallas Township has always been a place that's been forward-looking. I'm looking at that place up there and I'm saying, that's never gonna lose its value, it's gonna increase in value. We're not gonna lose by having that, we're gonna gain by having that. That's my opinion anyway.
Can't you put it on the ballot in the May election?
Quite frankly, I spoke to the owner today. He needs a decision. Like, originally, we were supposed to have a decision by July, I believe. Is that
Of
correct?
last year.
They have given us, on the contract, they have given us an extension. They said to me today, I told them that we're having a meeting
Yeah, it's
tonight,
not fair to
and
sell it.
we're days away from either yes or no. So, you know, that's, because they want to sell the building. There's other people interested in the building.
Can we put the hard feelings aside, the ancient history aside, the petitions, whatever else, and just vote tonight on what is best for the township? That's what I'm asking. And I think we all want that. What is the best thing for the township? And keep in mind the forward vision. Moving forward, not backward.
One of the concerns that I had, if we expand here, and I'm sure we can accommodate what we need for now, is what happens 10 years from now if Martin comes to us and says, I need another, 2,500 square foot building or whatever. I'm concerned about that. Where at least here, we have the space to do that, and then also the extra property down at that, to do whatever. The chief talked to me today, he said, who knows, 20 years from now, we may have to have a police force of 25, we might build a police station right behind, just for that. So, we're giving ourselves, I think, some options for our children and grandchildren down the road. Yes.
But obviously, there are some people that are against it, and maybe here tonight, but nobody's spoken up against it. Shouldn't, they have an opportunity to say why they're, or.
I'd just like to say something, and I'm gonna be truthful, I too signed the petition when one of the Wagners came to our house, and I didn't really know all of the facts. And I think maybe a lot of people, if they attended the meeting and they know the facts, and I respect the Wagners tremendously for what they, Frank, for what you've done for this township for the last, I don't know how many years that you've been on it. But I do think that with everything that was presented tonight, that I too feel that we need to change. And I don't know if a lot of people that have signed that petition may feel the same way if they were sitting here in this meeting tonight. So I think, I respect all the work that you've done, I really do. But I just, I'm just one of those people on that petition that I wish I hadn't signed it now. And I still respect you, and I thank you for all the service that you've done.
Back in the back.
Just out of curiosity, how was that petition presented to you? Because you just said that it was brought to your house by the Wagners. I'd like to really know more in depth of that.
Yeah, well, when, before the campaign, or I don't know when it was, but yes, someone would come to our house and ask us if we'd like to. And, and I've always been against raising taxes, and I just, from what I was told, our taxes were going to go up, and And I don't wanna see the taxpayers of Dallas pay more taxes, but from everything that I'm seeing here tonight, that's not gonna happen.
So there's two sides to the story, you only heard one side and you went with the side that you thought was correct until tonight.
Correct, yeah.
I think you get scared when you say $1 billion and you, oh, wow, yeah, I'll sign that. Well, then you have to know what's behind it.
Maybe perhaps we could just sign to buy that with possibly keeping a closed eye and not realizing what we're signing and move on. Because it happened one time, it might as well happen again, right?
We have to know what we're signing.
Exactly. And we should know that. And that was proven tonight that it was not. It was not. He did not know what he signed.
Well, yeah.
True or not?
At the time he signed it, it was a clear document, the price was on it, and he signed it at that time.
So it was 1.315 million, despite an insistence that it was not, but in fact.
Well, I think Franklin spoke on that, but and now that's been clarified.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem with a lot of the rumors that were going on was that, that we only had $300,000 in the bank and we would bankrupt us, we would use all. I mean, we were trying to get the facts out. I got a fact sheet out at the last meeting, what we've done, but this is probably the biggest attendance I think we've ever had since I've been a supervisor. It'd be great if we can get more information about the building, so everyone is aware of what we were planning, but I know people are busy and so forth, and sometimes it's difficult to get that information. Maybe the paper can do something, or, yes, Liz?
I have an idea. Why don't you take everybody that's on your list, your 197 people, and ask them to come here to a meeting, present the same information that you just presented tonight, and see if the rest of the people on that list might want to change their mind once they hear the truth. And the
Good
facts.
idea, but it's too late.
Yeah, you can have a couple days.
Well, 190 signatures, and we have 9,500 residents. So, yes.
Go ahead.
If I may, with all due respect, for somebody who goes along with the daily operations of the police department every day, I just want the public to know the importance of having more space. What we deal with every day is packaging evidence next to our Keurig. I mean, we try to go get, and drugs, yes, to be fair. We can't get to our shotguns because we have boxes of papers and, things just all over. We can't properly interview victims, witnesses. We have no place to take them. It's little things like that. The shower thing, I know that probably sounds like a luxury, but I mean, there's all kinds of scabies and hoarding houses and stuff that we go into on a daily basis that, yeah, my husband doesn't want that home, and their wives don't want that home, and the road guy's family don't want that home as well. So it's more than just stuff like that. It's daily operations that are becoming impacted, and, the trickle down is difficult.
I'll just make a comment. When you look in the back of the building there are land use records. And I think you can get an idea how difficult that is, but they are important. They're critical to our township. And we go back to them, and you see where you end up, all of those cabinets are full.
And
we put things
our
up on
police
top.
records are upstairs in the rafters, unprotected from fire and.
Unsecured, actually, because you can come in through the back door and go right up over the top.
Correct.
So technically in violation.
Bill, I think the key here to Robert and Frank, who I've known them for a very long time, is that when you initially formed your opinion about that building, you didn't have all the facts. I think it's a lot clearer now, it certainly is for me, that seems to be the better choice from a financial standpoint, from a long-term serviceability, 10 years, 20 years down the road. It just seems that way. But I could understand your aversion to it when all you had was a number on that building and you didn't know what it was going to cost to bring this up. And to be honest with you, I don't know if those numbers, Ryan, like I said before, I know with remodeling, you think it's X and it ends up being Z. So
how many people in the room have had a remodeling job that they said was going to cost 10 and it ended up causing, 12 or 15? we're talking a major renovation where this whole thing is put together in different sections. You don't know what you're going to run into. So that remodeling cost, and I know John can say it, my father was a contractor, and he hated remodeling jobs because he put a bid in, and there was always something that changed the price.
Too many
Because of,
unknowns.
once you open the wall up, that's it.
That's what you're gonna find here.
Well, I'm
That's what you're
sure,
gonna find here.
I'm sure. And not only that, the septic system has to be, I'm sure, updated, and that's probably a big cost. And I'm sure we have to go to DEP to get that,
Well, it's $75,000, I think, potentially, right? Is that what it was to
Yeah,
run the
that's what's in our
sewer line?
budget.
well, I'm sure, and, you know, if the system fails, you're again, more money. Now, at the new building, I'm sure there's public water, public sewer, everything is pretty much, no retention pond needed.
I have basically the same question, just to go on to hers. The septic, was a cost for the septic on there? To go from septic to the tank to the public?
There's a contingency in this budget, well, I shouldn't say it's contingency, because it's in the budget of $75,000. If the choice was made to stay at this campus, with the thought being there's gonna be additional people, police, potentially road department, administrative, whatever, which may overtax, we don't even know what's there.
Exactly. Is it going to be built for future expansion, even though you don't know if you're going?
If it's gonna be updated, it's gonna be a sewer line, not a septic system, so it's not a
Go
concern.
ahead, Mr. Fisher.
If I have, I guess, say something here, I've been involved in a lot of decision-making decisions over the years. I'm sure Mr. Brennan could, you know, confirm that, but our one decision is always, our one basis before we make a decision was never bring a half-baked potato to the bargaining table. And now I think the potato's baked. So I think anything that's being done at this time, you know, you use the baked potato as your decision making. And to support Mr. Higgins, I had the same thought he had, is that you have to look to where we're going to be 15, 20, 30 years from now. You can't look at, you know, we're going to be 2020, because I've seen the township grow to a point where I remember the police station was at a pink house on the corner of Hildebrand Road and Hubbard and Munns Road.
I didn't know you was that old.
So, you know, anything that was said, like, so many people reiterated this tonight, that, you know, anything was said in the past, maybe has to be reconsidered, and it's not a cowardice act to turn around and reconsider the decision. It's probably the smart thing to do.
So far, I heard anyone speak against the building here, and these people all came and showed up for the special meeting.
And so where's the 197 that are on that paper? Other than 2 or 3 that are here?
I think that's, you know, immaterial at this point.
Yeah, I think the
Time to move
information
forward.
may not have been there,
I
and
think it's time to move
now
forward.
it appears the
You
support.
can't go, I think it's time to move forward. You know, you're here tonight, this is 2018, not 2017. The mayor's here, let's go forward.
Robert, do you have anything to say?
I just want to say that when I went door to door, knocking on doors, talking to people, I got negative feedback against the building. Don't need the building. Why are they buying the building?
But you didn't have all the facts yourself. You only had the price for the new. You had no idea what was gonna happen to this garage.
I listened to the people that I knocked on their
But
doors.
they didn't know either. So it's easy to.
That's after you told them you didn't want it.
But you don't know that. You don't know what they knew.
Let him,
You have no idea what
Let him speak.
Let him ask the question, please.
I'm sorry, I do.
Let's just ask, take the floor.
I just talked to many people that voted me in as supervisor for what I believed in as I was going door to door. And I think the voters voted me in, and they spoke that they did not want the building. That's why they voted me in. And I'm finding it real hard for me to change my mind for the building when I had all these people supporting me. Don't shake your head.
I'm shaking my head because I talked to some of those people too. And I heard what you said
Unfortunately-
before you asked them to agree with you, but you know what?
Unfortunately-
It's not about politics tonight, let's continue with this conversation.
Alls I would
You
ask,
just give them the opportunity to speak and to express it, but the,
I think the voters spoke, voting me in as opposed to
no,
Ms. Morton.
and I would agree with that, but alls I wanna say to you is you've already got two sitting in this audience that heard all the facts for the first time, and they have changed their mind.
I've listened to all the facts.
You are the supervisor.
I've listened to all the facts, and I'm gonna do what is right for the township.
And so let me ask on that basis then. I do not know because you didn't knock on my door, so if you
Because I only
would,
went to Republican doors, because
I am a Republican.
so it's fine. Listen, how you ran your campaign's up to you,
Right,
Bob,
right.
honestly. But my question is, I've heard a lot of rumors of what was said. I don't know what to be true.
they're all rumors.
No, I understand that. So why don't you do me a favor, just explain to me what was explained to these people that signed the petition? What information was given that brought it to this decision?
I didn't write everything down.
What, I mean, what's a ballpark? What was it?
So there's 9,000 people, and because 200 people told him
on old
not to vote for it.
information and hearsay. Is that how we're gonna do this?
We're new in the township, we've only been here about 15 years. But I want to say, moving to Dallas Township, wonderful roads, wonderful police department, concerned board, everybody concerned, everybody working together. 197 people is 0.2% of the 9,000 people that live here. Okay, 0.2%. The facts, I understand you went to those people and you got their information and you feel that you might be turning, turncoat on them, or if you change your decision, they'll be disappointed. But right now, so the 0.2% is a fact, it's a number. Everything in front of you now is facts. It's numbers, it's not hearsay. The political fighting and everything that's going on, again, I was proud to move to Dallas Township. It's one of the best purchases we ever made. It's one of the best communities I've ever lived in. West Pittston's a great community, this is a great community too. I mean, the facts are right there. You don't remodel the old when you can get something new for the same price. You just don't do that. This is common sense. This is not betraying those people who signed or the people that voted for you. We know the margin was not that large in the votes. The margin was not that large. If you actually went by the margin of how you won, what percentage of that was the residents of Dallas Township? I mean, 0.2%, how many people are here? I mean, 0.2% is a really low margin to base this important decision on. You're right next to, they didn't even say, you're right next to Geisinger facility right there. You're right next to the trails, you're right near a light, you're right near, I mean, there's so many good things about that building. The price is scary, there's no doubt. No doubt, but you're not betraying anybody. You're looking for the future of your kids, is what you're doing.
I might
Thank
just
you.
add one thing to Robert Wagner. You have information now, really important information that you did not have back then when you were campaigning.
I was just handed all this last week.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is that the measure of a leader is someone who takes new information and acts on that and not relies on what he promised in the past. You promised something, you campaigned on something that was what you thought was reality then.
Part of my
Pardon me?
part of my campaign.
Oh,
It
right.
wasn't all fully
All right.
built.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is, you have important new information that has just come to light as a result of the estimate for the new renovating this building that doesn't even take into consideration overages or the septic system or having to hook up to a sewer. So, taking that into consideration, I respectfully submit that it is your duty as a supervisor to act upon that new information that you have and make your best decision based on that, and not just what was in the past. What's in the past is past. This is the present and the future, and I'm asking you to consider acting upon this.
Just one more thing. I mean, this is an hash back and forth, and, rehashed, and rehashed. I was one of the 197 people that signed that petition. It was a long time ago, and we didn't have the information we have now. Based on the information in that petition, I thought that this renovation would be far, far less than the cost of the new building. That influenced my decision to sign the petition. Based on the information we have now, and if those figures are accurate, the right decision is to buy this new building. I mean, it's really obvious to me. And if the Wagners, who like my wife, I've known you, since I was a little kid, and well, not Rob, he's my age. But anyway, I respect you for what you've done, and I, for one, won't think any less of you if you vote in favor of that petition or if you vote in favor of the new building. And I think the 197 other people, most of them, if not all of them, went through the same way. So I ask you to take that into consideration when you decide which way to vote.
I didn't know about the petition. We had no knowledge. I know most of the people I know had no knowledge of even this building being an issue. I mean, they didn't even know that the supervisors were going to buy. Everyone I talked to in my business that come in knew nothing about it, clueless, no idea. And now all of a sudden we have all this new information today. I just find it too much to even fathom. Okay, my head is spinning. Why didn't the community know? Why suddenly today we have all this new information? I'm shocked. And no, I never saw a petition. And talked to lots of people in what I do, and none of them know anything about it. The people I know in the borough don't know that this is happening, that the borough police station is moving, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a lot of lack of information, totally. And so now we're going to, with emotion here, make a decision. I think you can't do that today because, as I say, I had no idea that suddenly we have all this information that I knew nothing about. Nor did anybody even know that this was an issue. The voters.
There was a number of articles in the newspaper, including the picture of the building, about a year ago, about the fact that we were looking to buy the building. Problem is we don't get people to meetings.
I'm here because I do read the paper. I'm one of the people who reads the paper.
We don't get a lot of people at the meetings. I wish we could get a lot of
There
people
were
at
open
meetings.
houses.
And we had open houses at the building. We had 2 open houses invited. We had it on Facebook, we had it in the paper. We got 28 people in the building, and that was it. Nobody took an interest in it. It wasn't easy for them. It was easy for somebody just to sign a petition, but it was difficult for people to come to the building. We had people who came to the building who were against the building, and Frank even knows some of the names. And they walked out saying, yes, we do want to have here's the articles. Alan, you did the articles about the new building and how much we were going to pay and so forth. So they were out there, just that didn't get a lot of participation, a lot of interest.
Well, it's the same thing with so many topics.
Yes.
It isn't right there at your door, you don't care. But I just feel today, suddenly all this new information is here, it's too much to assimilate in an hour, 45 minutes. 45 minutes, an hour, 45 minutes.
I got something to say. I've been here quite a while. Most of you don't know who I am. I just keep to myself mostly. The police officer has been saying, I heard from them, that was the most important thing, that's why I'm here. I sleep pretty good at night. Don't have to worry about too much crime. I like that. These guys say they need extra space. He's saying the budget's covered. Give them the buildings, give them what they need. That's all I understand.
Do we have any, Tom, do we have anything else?
Well, what we can do is, does anybody else have any final comments? I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity.
Yeah, it just concerns me that it appears the information given to the people where this building on would be a lot cheaper. It's great that that information was somehow had with none of the other stuff, when we're just seeing it tonight. This is very confusing.
We're under a time constraint, and really, we had a public hearing on the acquisition of the land, and it was amazing to me. It was a fantastic job that the surveyors and Mr. Jones did, and I was amazed with how few people came, and I was amazed by how few people had any idea of it, because it had been in the newspaper and had been talked about so regularly at all our meetings, which were again being reported in the newspaper. And so it came as a surprise. And so what we did is, the supervisors, they said, well, let's start out having open houses. I mean, it's very, very hard to get, people's lives are so busy. It's very hard to get them to be interested in what you're talking about. It's important to us because we see it on a regular basis. But I can say the effort was genuinely made, and at every meeting, just about every meeting, the subject came up, and we tried to get the interest there. That agreement of sale was actually executed a year ago. We've reached a point where we have to bring this to a close. In fairness to ourselves and in fairness to the seller of the property, who has other people who are interested in it. He has an attorney from South Carolina who's being very gracious. Each time I'd say, we just need a little bit more time, a little bit more time, a little bit more time. We've run out of time. I don't know what I'm sure that everything could have been done better, but we tried as best we could to get the information out and to explain it to everyone. If we've heard from everybody, and I'm so grateful that the supervisors did not put time limits or anything of that nature, and so everybody had an opportunity to speak and to be heard. If you're prepared to vote on this, I'll go over what I think the process should be, how we go about that. Would that be?
Fine.
Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is, as we have done in the past, every time a vote came up on this particular purchase, Mr. Grant read a disclaimer saying about his background with the facility and with the parcel, and abstaining from vote. And that left two people, we still have a quorum, two people can vote on that. So he's going to do that again tonight.
Okay.
Now, if I can just follow through with the process, Bill. And then I'm going to ask to have a motion, and the motion is going to say a motion to conduct a vote. It's going to get moved, seconded, we're going to pass that, and that's just going to get us to the vote. And then I'm going to ask for the vote. Either we go through with the agreement of sale, or we don't go with the agreement of sale. If there is not unanimity among the two of you, then under the rules, under the statute, Mr. Grant would be able to come in and break the tie, if it were. The only thing that, and my respect for all of you is boundless. You do a job for pennies, and if we talk about all the people of the township, the 9,500, you guys are here, and we all deeply appreciate that. And I appreciate those who have come before you that I've had the privilege of being the attorney for. But when it comes right down to it, even if we're here only for one vote, that vote has to be, I think, it was said so perfectly by Diane. Every vote has to be in the moment, what we think is in the best interest of the township, today, tomorrow, 10 months from now, 10 years from now. That is all we can do, and all anyone can expect of us, based upon what we know or what we think at this time. I know you'll all discharge your duty beautifully, and if I know I'm giving you the urgency of time, if you wanted to just not deliberate among yourselves, but if you wanted to just take a few moments to think about things, you can do that too. I don't want anybody to feel that they're being rushed to anything. I remember one time I had to call a halt in a meeting and take a walk outside with somebody, not to talk about what the vote would be or not to be, but just to absorb the information, because I want you to get it right for yourself and for the township. So with that said, I'm going to first ask Mr. Grant to read his decision, his disclosing of his potential conflict, created conflict, and read it into the record, and then give it to Nancy, and she'll make it part of the record. Would you do that for us, Bill?
Sure. Point of order. Basically, with all this discussion tonight, and I know Bob is getting a lot of information tonight that he hasn't had before, I think it's precipitous for us to vote tonight.
Okay.
I think they should have some time to reflect on it and come back.
Okay. Sir, the point is, I'm giving them that opportunity. I'm going to go through the process. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is asking Mr. Grant to stay for his position. If you recall, what I did offer is that if you wanted a little bit of time, because ultimately that's their decision. It's a good comment, but it's their decision. The first thing I'm going to say is, we're going to have a motion. Do you want to have a vote at this time?
Oh.
Okay? All right, and then have the vote. Now, I'm going to say, there is a, if we don't